Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 106 of New York Red Bull Discussion Group, the podcast. I'm Gary Redmond. Greetings and salutations at your service. So, we got a fun show to talk about because there's a lot of things that happened over the weekend. It was a very busy weekend in the New York metropolitan area. We're going to talk about, of course, the match recap between the New York Red Bulls and Vancouver Whitecaps FC that ended in a draw. Once again, it was a glass half empty, glass half full sort of thing. We'll talk about that. Of course, we're going to get you ready for, which is going to be what's referred to as the revenge showdown between Inter Miami CF and, of course, New York Red Bulls are going to travel down all the way down to Fort Lauderdale. Both squads are heading down there. The senior team and the junior team is going down there. Speaking of which, we're going to have recaps and updates, of course, in New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC. It was a late goal fest at Red Bull Arena. And, of course, New York Red Bull 2 taking on Columbus Crew 2 and handed their team the very first loss. We're getting tired of the Columbus Crew at this point. Plus, of course, all the hot takes from the live audience and, of course, your bold predictions. I see all of our good friends coming in and signing on right now. Good to see you. Good to have you. Get those hot takes ready. We love to have you all. And, of course, speaking of which, if you've missed the live show that's going on right now, okay, you can catch the recording on our YouTube channel, Goals.tv. We're loading episodes as we speak. And, of course, Spotify.com. On our YouTube channel, we appreciate you guys to like and subscribe so you can be alerted on the next upcoming broadcast. And if you have any feedback, positive or negative, or any suggestions, please email us at our email address at rbdgthepodcast@gmail.com. Once again, it's rbdgthepodcast@gmail.com. And every so once in a while, we have a rare birthday shout out to start off with the school. So happy birthday to both Tom McHugh and Pat Glodowski. Hope that you're out there celebrating your birthday with family and friends. We give you a nice little shout out for that. So, lots of things to talk about, of course, but before I even go there, I have to introduce, of course, our two co-hosts coming into the show right now. The one and only Carlos Cano making his second straight appearance. And the reason for that is because Lon Ray, of course, got sick, so we have a nice enough and terrific understudy. And, of course, Mark Coates, the tactician wizard we're all going to need. So, gentlemen, before we begin, how was your weekend?
Great. The Knicks won. The Red Bulls drew. It was great to be back at the arena. Finally made it out to my first game of the season, live in living color. So that was very nice.
So Clarissa let you loose. So.
Tom
the baby let me loose.
The baby let you loose, right? Hey, okay, yeah. I mean,
go Rangers.
I mean,
yes,
go Rangers. I
mean,
I was feeling good. I was like, okay, we got past, we got past the Capitals like I figured we would. The Knicks are one game away getting past Philadelphia if they do the right thing. I think it's tomorrow night. Yeah, tomorrow night's game.
Tomorrow night 7.
Shout to Miguel's Gunners. They also won this weekend.
Oh yeah, he is a happy boy. His team is sitting on top of the rulers of the roost for now.
Sending messages with him on Saturday, and then of course we were disappointed with Man City winning, but you can't control other people. You can only control your destiny.
Nah. Right now, they're how many points? Like 4, Carlos?
They're 1 point ahead of Man City right now.
1 point ahead.
Has a game in hand.
Woo.
Yeah. So
Man City still has that game in hand, right? Yeah.
So Arsenal has 3 left on the schedule.
Right.
And that's it. So but
down the stretch they come.
Yeah, but they have 10 points to the good on the goal differential over Man City. So
right now they can't lose. They can't afford to lose. I think. Wait a minute. Arsenal has an easier schedule or rougher schedule. Not to turn this into an Arsenal.
I don't know off the top of my head.
But we'll figure that out.
I mean, it's getting down to the wire though. So
yeah,
but we had some disappointment on the Atlantic side of the ocean.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that game where it was basically, it was basically old. It was Old Friends Weekend Part 2 or Part 3 at this point. Brian Wright. The more we see Brian Wright, and he's doing pretty well over Vancouver. I take my hat off to him. I'm very proud of that because we've seen this kid grew up in New York Red Bull 2, and he's doing his thing over, up in Vancouver. Beautiful city. Got to go up there one day. Doing very well up there. And all day, every day leading up to that game, the very first thing we traded the wrong guy. That was, I mean, it
That's how we
kind
want
of,
to start the show, right?
right. I mean,
Yes, yes, we chose Barlow.
yeah, yeah.
Look, and it's not a matter of. I think that because Brian was hurt the prior season, didn't come back at 100%, and of course our former coach, Mr. Sturber, he was more a fan of Barlow's style of play, and I think he had some say in which one he really wanted to see stay.
He's the coach, right?
So the choice was made. I didn't agree with it. I watched both of them from the moment they signed with Red Bull 2, and I always liked Brian. And my kids even remember Brian is also the only player in USL history to have a goal, an assist, and a save. Because
the guy was a baller.
Our dear friend who plays with Cincinnati now, and we faced a couple weeks back, got himself red carded off the field. So Brian White had to put on the gloves and the goalie.
He was a hot-headed knucklehead even back then. So that's
one
thing. There's one thing about him that has not changed.
No,
about him.
But like I said, Brian's a talented guy. I don't begrudge him for leaving us the way he has.
It's a business.
We knew he was going to score a goal. It was like a given. That just seems that the way things roll. So yeah, he comes in, but it wasn't the difference in the game. I think we were discussing earlier. The difference was our just missed opportunities left and right, and even after the errant red card, which we'll obviously get into, but it just. There were so many chances that our team had, and this has become one of those things where people get down. So it was something I was thinking about that I wanted to mention on the show tonight.
Hold that note for just 1 second after Carlos. I mean, coming into this game, we talked about this a little bit about Brian White coming back, but overall, this was a must-win for the Red Bulls. I mean, this was another opportunity to state your claim against a very good team. And although the game ended in a draw, did you feel it was a loss or a win when the final whistle blew?
Well, first of all, I don't know that it was a must win. I didn't go into it thinking it was a must win. I don't know that maybe others did. I suppose that's feasible, right? But I certainly didn't think so. I think we have to be mindful that Vancouver was coming in right in the same position on their end, and in the Western Conference. So on paper, again, and I know games aren't won on paper, but on paper they're just as good. I think you could argue that we're better, that we were the better team, but. Listen, they came in and they did what they had to do, right? And I think sometimes we get caught up in, how obviously for the last for as long as we can remember, it feels like at this point how much this team has disappointed us and how bad the team has been, especially last year and so on. Again, I feel like sometimes we forget that there's two teams on the field, right? And at the end of the day, in some cases one will win, one will lose. In some cases, you draw. This is the game of football, and you can tie at the end of the day. I felt like and obviously we can as we unpack the game from watching it, right? And it's always such a pleasure to watch the game live, right, as opposed to watching it on television. I just felt like the moments where the Red Bulls played more direct and they were quick off the counter was when they looked the most dangerous. Right. The problem is, again, and we'll say this probably every week until something changes, we don't have a striker, right? And so, you get to that final third and, crickets, right? There were a lot of great plays, but every time the play was much more direct was when we were the most threatening. And there were times where we looked like the Red Bulls of years past, where we were trying to play long ball, play from the back, long ball up to the front. And that didn't really result. When we were able to counter and play direct 2-3 pass football, and get into the attacking third, that's when we look the best. But again, we don't have that clinical striker as a number 9 that can finish those kinds of plays. And so, again, at the end of the day, I didn't feel like it was a loss. I felt like it was a game, well played. I know that there's a lot of criticism in the group today that I've been going back and forth with folks saying I think it's somewhat harsh. But again, it's all a matter of perspective, right? Everyone sees the game slightly differently. But I didn't see it coming off as a loss.
Yeah, especially with expectations as high as it is, especially as the team continues to play well, and they have, but the whole party began 15 minutes. Brian White didn't take very long to get on the scoreboard, and this is how he did it.
Blackman completes the switch. Quick pass there from Adekubi to Ahmed. Got the next pass through to Ryan Gall. Pedrovite in space. Here's the overlapping run from Ryan Raposo, cutting it back, and Brian White has done it. The highest scoring Whitecap ever in Major League Soccer. Brian White at 44 career goals passes Camilo Sanbeso, and the Jersey boy makes good in his homecoming to Red Bull Arena.
Sartini has said about Brian White, the most irreplaceable player on his squad for what he does defensively and leads the line. Has a knack for scoring big goals as well. And this one's so well taken, as the Red Bulls were so quick up to close the ball down. But once that pressure was broken and the ball was played across by Raposo, Brian White just uses the back heel to flick it in beyond Coronel and into the goal to give the Whitecaps the lead.
Held off his celebration. 44 goals, gentlemen, as a Whitecap. That's BWP level numbers. 44 goals. And we traded this guy to Vancouver.
Say what you will, but aside from the goal, Brian White was very quiet on Saturday.
Oh yeah,
he
did not. He did not.
I mean, you could say obviously he contributed when it counted, right? He got on the score sheet, but again, looking at the whole 90 minutes, beyond that goal, which we would ultimately equalize to get the draw, I mean, if anything, I'm probably more disappointed in, to Mark's point, that we didn't capitalize on the opportunities we had versus what we did defensively versus the Whitecaps. Because, again, I didn't feel like there were really gleaming moments where they were super threatening on the offense.
Mark, there was defensively, there was somewhat of a breakdown, what I just saw. Okay. It's almost like when Raposo made that run.
Yeah.
Everybody was late. Everyone was like, oh, wait, there's a guy with the ball. And by the time they realized what was going on, it was pretty much too late. And that kind of made me feel like, okay, that play was savable, but I didn't like the reaction time by the defense. I mean, it was
we were on our heels on that, but it's one of those situations where we're not going to throw up clean sheets against a team of this caliber. They're going to find a way to get it in. There are certain teams we should be able to hold off the scoreboard. I didn't see us. That's why, I had said 3-1. And I think if we had capitalized on our chances, it would have been 3-1 or at least 2-1. But it wasn't, and again, it's difficult to sit and we could second guess the whole Brian White trade all day. There was no way to know. And this is, somebody, I think Lisa had commented she didn't like him. When he came up from Red Bull 2, he's having to fill in for BWP, who was injured at the time. Then he got injured. And then the following year, we had to change over to Struber taking over the team. And it was one of those decisions that he was the guy they felt they were going to get the better value for. They were solid about Barlow. Barlow got misused. Someone commented that Barlow barely plays with Chicago. Yeah, and he shouldn't be starting in MLS. The
only reason why people were like, well, what does he have on the coach for him to start over there? Well, for one thing, healthy bodies
Yeah,
He was the only one left.
Nobody else left to play. Who
For
else was
one,
going to
I
start?
mean,
Did you look at our bench?
I
There,
mean,
you know,
there was no one there. I mean, so
Yeah.
Red Bull has a solid next man up mentality. I mean, and if you're healthy enough to play, well, you're up.
the man.
You're
Yeah.
the guy. So I didn't have a problem with Barlow playing because there was nobody else. Okay,
Right.
two of our best offensive threats that year were out for the year.
Yeah.
I mean, it was okay. Well, sign somebody. They couldn't sign anybody,
There's no
even
more
if they
roster.
wanted to. I mean,
You don't have the
this
space.
ain't
out there.
this
What are
ain't
you gonna do?
FIFA where you just go get somebody, plug him in, and then you boss somebody around. That's not how that works here in real life.
No.
Especially in Major League Soccer, when you're basically running a soccer team on a budget. Okay, so it's not just
Yeah.
a lot of
Like I
teams
said,
like that.
But again, no, it wasn't the greatest of defending, but
No,
again, for the most part, with one exception, which I'm sure we're going to show, and I don't want to watch, but it was not. It overall, I think the effort was there. Again, it was more. My concern was more that the offensive struggles,
yeah.
and we'll get to
More
that.
than in the defenses.
Yeah.
I agree with you there. Speaking of offense, I mean, the game didn't stay down 1-0 for very long before, in the 56th minute, off a corner kick, Lewis Morgan to the
As
rescue.
they will have to defend this corner now.
Forsberg whips that in with pace, rattles around and in! Lewis Morgan breaks the skid of 3 matches without a goal, and he remains the go-to man for New York Red Bulls. It's a 1-1 match.
Making it so difficult for the Whitecaps to defend. He just powers it inside. Takaoka can't deal with it. And actually Morgan has to do a little bit more than just knot it over an empty goal line. But he's able to get under it and then knock it high in off the underside of the crossbar. Good athleticism from the Scot. As Takaoka really should do better with that. He's got players in front. No defenders are able to deal with it either.
See, that was the thing that was frustrating me and everybody in the stands. Of course, naturally, I had to hold my feelings in because you can't cheer from the press box. The thing about the goaltender for Vancouver, he's a good keeper. Very good. If he has one discernible weakness, stone hands. He spills rebounds a lot. And it goes, and it goes basically what you were saying, Mark, about opportunities. They were there. I mean, there were saves where he basically went off his hands and the ball was bouncing around the front of the net. And I was surprised, just like everybody else, that it didn't land in anybody with a yellow kit to pop that in. But you know what they say: if you don't take take advantage of your opportunities, someone else is going to punish you for it. Luckily for the Red Bulls, that didn't happen. Now, the team went back and forth. The thing that was really irritating most fans in the first half, because I saw Sandro Schwartz, he was being, remonstrating on the sidelines. He was basically telling his guys to go up, go forward, go, let's go, move the ball. And by the time the first half ended, he darted into that locker room like a very upset man because he was expecting ball movement. And this is something that is a big bugaboo with myself and Carlos. Carlos, you saw the same old bugaboo from the season before and the season before that, dude standing around. What is it with this team and ball movement? Really? I mean, they were playing well with the ball movement and everything else, but now it's like they go back to their old mistakes. You agree on that?
There are times that it happens. It's certainly not as as frequent. But you got to also remember that this is a team that is also very intentional with the press, with the amount of movement, so to speak, right? That they do, on and off the ball. Particularly if you think about towards the end of the game. There are a lot of tired legs, right? And again, speaks to the lack of depth that this team has. There was a sub that was made late in the game where I think everyone for the most part was thinking Lewis Morgan comes off because he goes down at the end. And I don't know about everyone else, but I certainly had a, hold my breath moment because he went down, off of something that wasn't with contact, if I remember right. He went down. It looked like he was hurt, but I guess probably just cramps because he got up and he ultimately would finish the game. But so I don't see it being as much of a bad thing or a constant thing anyway as it was last season. But again, I just think that when it comes to, I guess, old habits, again, the old habit of trying to play up the flanks or trying to play long ball, we saw a lot of that. And that probably more than anything else is what frustrates me, especially when, again, this team looks so much better when they're playing more direct football.
Stroud not being in the lineup also made a discernible difference. And of course, the game did turn things around because whatever that, I guess, Schwartz talked to his team, because like I said, he was the very first person in the tunnel. Certainly not because he was looking, he was looking to curse somebody out because of what was not happening offensively. And then of course the goal came in naturally in the second half in the 56th minute. But then something very strange happened later on as the team was trying to find their way on their feet offensively. Someone made a defensive mistake, and Noah Ella. I mean, this guy has had a rough couple of games. I mean, I'm beginning to feel sorry for this kid, okay? Just like last week, against LA, it went from bad to worse, and I'll just have everybody take a look at this.
And based on his performance here tonight,
that one skipped through.
It's a handball.
Might have been a handball, and that's from a decent spot.
That is a red card.
That was headed towards Ryan Gault. There's the red card.
Absolutely no complaints.
Oh,
it's clear cut with.
Yeah.
I watched it, so I'm laughing because I watched it again. I sit in 118, right behind the pipes, and so I saw it happen right in front of my face. And I don't remember if I think it was in our group chat on Messenger. I had said, and I stand by it, I wouldn't do that. Then again, and I was telling my wife earlier, I was like, I wouldn't do that. But then again, I also wouldn't be playing center back because that's just mess waiting to happen. But that's a different conversation. I wouldn't do it, but I kind of get it because if he doesn't do that, he's beat. Like there's no question about it. He's beat. But I think Bradley in our group chat made the point. Like you have to let Carlos do his job in that situation, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's almost like
I
forgot,
said,
hey, we got to keep it back there.
But I get it. So
I mean, my girlfriend was like, "Did he forget that there was a goalkeeper back there or something like that?" I mean, I broke out a character, in the press box. I was screaming, "Why, Noah? Why? Why?"
We're like
why,
brain diarrhea.
Noah? Why,
that was
Noah?
brain diarrhea.
Why? I mean, I just shook my head. I was like, I mean, we've seen dumb red cards, okay, in the history of this team.
You think?
I know, okay. We can go back, okay. I like to think that isn't really the top five, but that just may wind up being the top three. I mean, it was such a...
That was close.
I mean, it was such an irrational move. It was like, huh?
And then what's worse, if you add insult to injury, he gets shown the red card, and his expression is like, what? Like, right. I can't believe it. Like, are you kidding? Like, if that's me, I put my head down and I immediately make my way to the tunnel.
I'd be digging a hole and hoping to swallow it up after that. I mean, sheesh. I mean,
there's nothing. There's nothing after that. Now, I want to. again, we can laugh about it. It was what it was.
Yeah, that's just it. We can. Right,
We didn't lose the
that's
game.
the point.
So.
Right.
But
We
I
didn't,
do want to say,
the team didn't lose. They didn't win, but they didn't lose. However, it causes a problem for next week. Okay.
Well, before we get to that,
okay, good.
And I'm going to say this every week until something like visibly changes.
Here it comes.
Okay. And I never, it's never an excuse, right? Because like I always say, players play, but the officiating, gosh darn me, is absolutely terrible. The inconsistency of the ref on Saturday.
These are the dudes that went on strike.
Listen, for a couple of years when I had just graduated college, I reffed for a rec league. Look, and I get it, right? Like it was a rec league, but I refereed and I grew a totally different appreciation for what referees do, because to just referee 14 grown adults who are playing for fun is like you can't imagine. Like I have stories for days, but how inconsistent the officiating was on Saturday was just beyond me. I was sitting next to, I had 8 or 9 year olds sitting next to me in the same row, and we were literally all having, like, these kids are, they're probably brighter than I am, but that's again a different conversation. But we were all in lockstep with just how bad the officiating was. Like it was awful.
They were howlers.
It was awful.
They were howlers. I just looked at myself and said, these are the guys that replaced. I mean, it makes me
give me the replacements back. Like, give me them back.
I mean, we can't. I mean, look, the thing about our league versus, say, I don't know, the Premier League. I mean, at least those officials know what the hell they're doing. I mean, these guys, I don't know. I mean, it's almost like
they're just clueless.
Yeah, every week, you're saying, and and Lisa, you're right. Okay, we do make fun of you for thinking that hot pink refs, and piss kits are a combo of doom for us, but show me where I'm wrong. I mean, she's not.
Go.
I say teams make the kits, right? So
no more rotten egg kits. Can we start a petition? We need to get rid of that kit. That kit needs to go.
My thing is this. Don't wear them at home. Okay.
Don't wear them anytime, ever.
Don't wear them. I mean, if you're gonna wear them, if you're not gonna, one place you're not. I mean, this is the one complaint I'm gonna say about them, and I'm gonna just call it a day. The only color the fans need to see at Red Bull Arena is red. That's it. Okay. No, I mean, the only reason why they had to wear the yellow kits is because you saw the team wearing blue. Because Vancouver, they wear white at home, just like we did back in the day. So they wear, they wear the chain strip, as they're called, and it's always, and it's in blue. That's probably the reason why they did it. But honestly, that's one, that's one uniform that I don't want to see at home. At least that's me as a fan. I don't, as a writer, I just don't care. Okay, I'm just saying the team wore their chain strip, and I'm gonna call it a day. But if I was a fan, I'd be look, dude, don't wear that nonsense, at the cathedral. It's supposed to be red always. That's unless it's absolutely necessary. Reyes and Noah's Vincent. This man, we got to bring him on one day because this guy's got nothing but hot takes. It's either him. It's either him that's throwing these hot takes once in a while, and John Amaral. Reyes and Noah just trying to share the same game time. Reyes are going to get a red card once Noah's available. We hope not.
No.
Okay, we hope not.
It's all right. Noah's going to play for RB2 next week, and then we'll get everyone
right. Like I said, both squads are heading down to Fort Lauderdale, so he's going to get his trigger time. Okay, he'll get his trigger time probably right next to Reyes. He's got one more game before he's back with us.
No,
so,
Reyes is back this week.
Reyes is back this week. Okay. So let's hope he understands that what he did was galactically stupid. And it won't. I mean, because he got an earful from the coach. He got a coach. He did. He got an earful. Said, "Don't do this crap again." Straight up.
He was not happy. Van Zier ripped into him in the locker room.
I'm sure he. I mean, so it was such a dumb foul. It was something that you just simply don't do. Let's clean this up a little bit. Okay, of course, the game ended 1-1. Morgan, as you all saw in the 56th minute, of course, White got his in 15 minutes into the match. It's a draw, disappointing as it is, of course. But Morgan's goal was the 7th of the season, his 21st goal in his career with the team. He's now scored 28 career goals in MLS's play. Morgan has recorded 5 goals in his last 6 matches, y'all. The winger scored his 5th goal of the season and his 12th goals of his career at Red Bull Arena. Now, not only that, Morgan moved into a tie with guess who? Dane Richards. Remember him? Okay, for 3rd place in franchise history for most MLS goals with a midfielder with 21. Everybody remembers the Dane Richards. Everybody loved that guy. Forsberg's assist he got on Morgan's goal was his 3rd, okay, in the MLS season. Swedish international has now tallied 2 goals and 3 assists in 6 MLS matches. Not too shabby. Red Bulls are now currently on a 7-match unbeaten streak at Red Bull Arena across all competitions. New York is also on a 6-match regular season unbeaten streak. They haven't lost since Columbus. Think about that for a second, y'all. Right, that was our only loss, okay? Which is the most in a single season of the club since 2021. Y'all remember that wonderful season, which ran from September 17th to October 9th. And the Red Bulls this season became the 9th team in franchise history to go unbeaten in their first 4 home matches to start a season. Quite the fortress. Remember when people were just coming in, housing these dudes at their house? I mean, it's like it's like leaving a door open in in your house in a bad neighborhood. People was like, "Oh, I might as well make myself at home and beat you up while you're at it." Not such the case. They're undefeated at home, which is something that's always nice until the first loss. Oh, one more thing. People were asking me about this in the press box and everything else. Yes, for one day, the arena changed its name. It did. It changed its name. It wasn't referred to as Red Bull Arena, which was confusing the living daylights out of everybody because there was signage and everything else. They changed, the club venue was basically renamed Wings for Life World Run Arena. Say that 5 times, Dan. 5 times. It was the new arena. It's Red Bull always holds this event, every year, which basically encourages fans to sign up for the Wings for Life World Run. And let me explain what this is quickly before the break. The run takes place globally on May 5th, 7 o'clock in the morning, if that's what you need, and it's free. It's free. All you got to do is sign up online and then do your jog thing, right? So basically, what it does is it helps raise vital funds for research, y'all, into finding a cure for spinal cord injuries. Like I said, it's something for a very good cause. The Wings for Life World Run's unique format allows people of all abilities and fitness levels. In other words, you ain't got to be a world-class athlete to join this thing. You can be as out of shape as yours truly. Old and out of shape as yours truly to join this thing, okay? It allows people of all fitness levels to participate. There's no fixed finish line. That's the thing about it. There's no fixed finish line. Rather, what it's known as a virtual catcher car on the app that sets off 30 minutes after your race starts. Oh, by the way, if the catcher car overtakes you at some point, the race is over. So it's a fun and a very, good thing for you to join. It's basically for, for research and stuff like that. And almost anyone can join into it. And if you wanted more details on the subject, you go to the website that you see right here, https www.wingsforlifeworldrun.com/en. Okay, so that's the website. You can go in to find out more about it and how you can able to do your part. And of course, once again, that's Wings for Life World Run, one word, .com/en. So yeah, that's something that anybody can join. Everybody really can contribute and see they can able to, do their part, for for research, because spinal research is, spinal is the thing. And of course, Red Bull definitely does this every year. So we're going to take ourselves a quick little break. When we return after 30 seconds, let's talk about Inter Miami and how they plan to do revenge on the Red Bulls after we did a beatdown on one very winter-like day at the Cathedral. When we last saw Inter Miami, they were here at the Cathedral, and it was a very wet, cold, raw day. I mean, probably one of the coldest day we have anything that we had in recent memory. And Inter Miami is a team that basically has to play under the sunshine and the warm weather and everything else. And they were not prepared for the winter, for the weather over in the northeast part of the United States. So now, part two of that wonderful, that schedule, it now shifts to the sunny climes of Fort Lauderdale and Chase Stadium for part two of that. Carlos, right now, looking at the standings, Miami is what a lot of people feel where it's supposed to be if they're the front runners of the league. They're in first place and they're first overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And so obviously the most obvious difference from the first match to the match that'll be coming up this Saturday against them, besides being away. So of course they'll head down to Fort Lauderdale to play this game. But of course the greatest will be on the pitch for Miami, where he was not on the pitch against the Red Bulls. He was on the
Messi.
The international duty, but he was injured, so he didn't even compete in international duty during that time. But that will be the most glaring difference, obviously. But that doesn't mean that Miami's not bitten by the injury bug. They do have a handful of players that are out for this match, including folks on defense, and it's folks that obviously Tata Martino has a pretty good system in terms of, using the depth that his team has to be able to get through the season, right? Which is one of the things that I think obviously the Red Bulls lack, is not being able to more tactically use their bench and their squad when it comes to international breaks and other tournaments and things of that nature. And so that will certainly play a role, I think, in the game. Obviously, kickoff, as always, 7:30 p.m. on Apple TV through the season pass. And so you'll be able to catch that there. But yeah, Inter Miami sits at the top of the table. They are, the kings of the league for the time being. They lead all of MLS with 21 points, so they are the leaders also in the Supporters' Shield run. And so, again, I don't want to label this as must win by any stretch, but I do think that more so than the game we just had, this is a game that can clearly – I don't think it's make or break. But if the Red Bulls want to stake a claim in saying we're here, like this is
not going anywhere.
We're not going anywhere. This is a season that we really think we can take by, no pun intended, by the horns and run with. Then you do that on the road in Fort Lauderdale with a team that is fielding arguably the greatest player in the world, who is going to be out for blood. I mean, I don't need
Welcome to Miami.
I don't
Say
need
hello
to
to my little friend.
I don't need to wax poetic about Leo Messi, but what he continues to do on the pitch is just out of this world. And he will take advantage of any lapse in our defense. And so, Reyes better come back with his head on as,
switched
great
on
as possible.
Yeah.
And that entire back line, because they're gonna be taken to task.
tested. Yeah,
they're gonna be tested 100%. So should be a good game. Great to look forward to. So a good one for us on Saturday night for sure.
The good news, as Carlos alluded to earlier, is that I'm looking at the injury report as it was rented out today, and it's a lengthy one. Jordi Alba is still out with a hamstring. Chandler Borglund, hamstring. Facundo Farias, remember him? He's done damage to us in the past. He's got a knee problem. So is Ian Frey, knee problem. Sergei Christoph, hamstring. Federico Redondo, knee. But the biggest one I see on that list, other than Jordi Alba, Robbie Robinson. Okay, he's out with a knee. So you're looking at a team that has a lot of injuries, and they are good players sitting on the on the sidelines with knee injuries. But you know what they say: if you got a guy named Lionel Messi, you got a good chance to win this game. Not to mention, okay, not to mention you got the other guy who's now heating up, okay. And it could be for a long afternoon out in Florida, and this is something that we were concerned about when it came to scoring until suddenly the Red Bulls can't. The thing that I'm concerned about, Mark, is this offense, right? Last Saturday they were a little tentative with the ball. They couldn't figure out what to do with it. They really can't do that. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi with the ball in front of the net, and don't try to at least do a bum rush at the net. They can't do that with the squad.
One of the things that was driving me insane in the first half was how many passes we're getting to guys, but it was like getting underneath them. It's like they couldn't get their footing right to take a shot, and I love John Tolkien. I'll preface this by saying John drove me nuts. How many times he stops, puts his foot on top of the ball. It's like, what are you doing? I'm like, why don't you just let everybody catch up? It's like, what in God's name are you doing? And it was driving me insane. One of the things that was part of the broadcast from our first meeting with Miami, and I don't recall who the broadcasters were on Apple, but I caught part of it when I was listening to the replay. And thanks for putting me up there. That's exactly it. I'm not going to say that Messi isn't the GOAT. Okay, I will not deny the guy's phenomenal. However, he has 2 legs. He's just as human as anybody else on that field.
He's a step slow. I mean,
exactly.
He ran through New England in front of 65K
on the turf.
On the turf.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm giving these reasons why they call him the GOAT for a reason. Okay. The guy's boss when he switched on. I'm not saying that he is slow or anything else. He can take a team on his back and carry them to victory. That's something that we haven't had since 2000. Okay, we haven't had a player like that can do that. Okay,
no, but this is my point. It's like if everybody on our
right, and to Nick's point, New England Revolution, who we play next after Miami, old, slow. Okay, when I say slow, NYCFC was doing the cha-cha, around that defense, scoring goals over in the city field, a baseball field. So I don't have any problem, also the problem with Miami, the number one weakness, they can't defend.
No.
They can't defend.
And that's the thing.
So,
it's great if they could score 4 goals, but if they allow 5,
that's a problem. But then
we are
it puts the onus on right. It puts the onus on the Red Bulls, right? Okay, you dealing with a defense that's a little step slow themselves. How do we know? Because you ran around them like crazy in the driving rain in New Jersey. So
listen, he's going to have Suarez. He's going to be there.
He's going to be there. He's going to get his.
Right.
Messi's going to be there. He's going to get his. Okay.
But
that's 3. 2 guys you got. That's 1 or 2 guys you got to keep off the scoreboard. And that's it.
If you look at them and you're in awe of these 2 guys, and you allow them to just run rampant over us, we're not going to come back with any points. Nick and I enjoyed that on Saturday. I don't know how many times.
Stop shooting at the goalie. I mean,
it's like there's the rest of the net to shoot at, and you're shooting it right at the goalkeeper. The ball's not going to go in that way. But that's one of those things that I think that if our coach reminds them, yes, it is messy. You can be as starstruck as you want after the game. But while
get
we're
his
playing,
autograph, get his shirt, what have you.
Exactly.
But right now it's business.
Get your job done. Stay focused on what needs to be done. We've got still, a great defense. Okay. The kid put his hand up. We know it was a mistake. He's young. We were talking about it, yesterday at the 2 game.
And Reyes is a head case because he can't get his,
Reyes,
he's on.
Reyes didn't play for Red Bull 2 yesterday, and the reason he was pulled and not playing with Red Bull 2 yesterday was because Noah got the red card Saturday night. They cannot risk Reyes getting hurt in a 2 game on a Sunday, knowing they need him Saturday in Miami. So,
meanwhile, Noah's going to play with the 2 team.
And that's fine. Maybe he learned something. I mean, it's because
keep your hands to yourself.
Maybe he can teach them a couple things about defense. I know we're going to get to them in a minute, but but that's my take. I think that given that we're going down there, they may want revenge, but we have a good chance of walking out of there with a point. That's sort of where I'm feeling.
That's it.
But our guys got to play our game. Carlos alluded to it earlier about us not doing the stand, because I'm sure that would Sandro Schwartz was like, he must have been livid at the end of the game. Our guys stood around more in that game than they have all season.
Sit around with the ball.
The whole season we've been moving around. And what happens? All right, so we came out, we played a flat game, but this is 2 games in a row we have had opportunities at home. And, it's one of those things where part of me wants to look back and say, okay, where were we last year? We are an improved squad.
Yeah,
and this is one of those things we don't want to talk about. Yes, we we want success. We want a cup. All right. We know the fan base as a whole is never going to be happy. We could win 5 cups. We still didn't win the first one. We didn't win one before City. Everybody's always going to find that thing to complain about. All right. But we have to take
the game or the coffee that night.
Where are we compared to where we were last year? Look where we are in the standings. Look at the fact that there's some hope. Can I use that word? Are we allowed to use the word hope? There's been an improvement. We have a better roster.
One loss, y'all.
And we have
loss.
Yeah.
One loss.
And we have a coach that seems to know how to communicate with our players.
I mean, ask yourselves, and this is also the question to the live audience right now. How many losses after 10 games we had to this point versus how many losses we have now? Okay. So do I believe that we're not playing to the team's not playing to their full potential? Yes. Do I think that are you trying to convince me that there are, room for improvement? Yes. Okay. Which is, which goes by saying, and I did say that was going to be more critical this season, and I have. Okay. So, Nicholas hit the nail on it. We were 2-5-3 last year. At this moment, if that's not an improvement, I don't know what is. And Lisa has a point. We're being a little bit optimistic about Saturday. I had us losing this game when the schedule was announced. If they do better than that, awesome. Let's put it this way, Lisa. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. if we're able to walk away with a point, that's a win. I know we always want to win the game in front of them. At least I do. Okay, at least I do. I want them to win the game in front of them. But considering how everybody is putting this team as the underdog of underdogs against Superman Messi, when he light up the scoreboard over in Gillette Stadium on the turf in front of 65,000, they figured it's more of the same. However, I'm looking at that back line that Miami got, and I'm doing this. I'm like, yeah. I know where Lewis Morgan's going. I'm going to get me a couple of goals and go. Okay?
Speaking of revenge, he loves to score against Miami.
Yeah. He got 2, remember? Mm-hmm. He got a brace. Okay?
Just like Frankie Amaya likes scoring against Cincinnati. Morgan likes to score against Miami.
He got a brace. So he's sitting there going, yeah, boy. Yeah, go ahead. Come at my defense. I can put, I'll take my defense over your defense. Okay? I mean, hey, even as old and slow New England was, they got one. It wasn't a shutout. They got one. Okay? Only difference is
they have nobody on that team.
They have nobody. I mean,
the
only guy they got now is Carlos Gill. That's it. And he's slow now. He's slow. Everyone else is old and slow.
When you play a couple of years on turf.
Okay, and may I want to make an apology to everybody in the group right here, right now. Remember that I was advocating, okay, for for the head coach of New England right now, Caleb Porter. Remember him? Remember me making that claim? Man, was I wrong. I am here to say that officially. I was wrong, okay? Holy smoke. I thought they were going to be a force, but then I forgot, and then I neglected to look at the whole team, and I'm like, they can't. They haven't been straight, since the Bruce got chased out of there. They haven't been straightened out since then. Caleb Porter's like, okay, they can't wait to get rid of this guy. Okay, so, I mean,
the bottom of the table, and especially in the Eastern Conference,
shocking,
is super. And I mean, I get Montreal to an extent. Charlotte,
but they always
Chicago,
beat us.
But Orlando, Nashville, and New England, that's 13, 14, and 15, respectively, right now in the standings. I want to remind everyone, Nashville sent us home last season. And they're second from the bottom of the table. And New England that Robert Kraft can't be too happy. But at the same time, I take some joy in that.
They're the last team in MLS to have their own field right now. And everyone said, what's wrong with you guys? Well, first of all, building anything in Boston is like building anything in New York, very expensive. But NYCFC got theirs. All it takes is a very good soccer-like mayor, and you win like Flint. So
while we're looking at the table too, on the Western side, for whatever it's worth, Seattle's also second from the bottom of the table.
Right.
Insane. It's just super.
Well,
crazy.
they're not the bottom of the table anymore. They're now
they're second from the bottom.
Second from the bottom. San Jose. Well, they haven't been that. I mean, they haven't been that since the Goonies. Remember them? The Goonies squad. Lighting up the lamp and everything. They got their supporters. But man. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom, Lisa. There's a chance. Okay, there's a chance. They got frozen. Inter Miami got frozen like a bunch of fish at a seafood market. Okay, and they didn't like the cold and the rain and everything else. While everything was fine, things are going to take a much more different, turn this time around. I'm thinking for a much more. We'll get to bold predictions in a second, but first, there were other games that happened while on Sunday. Now the reason why I can't stand Columbus guys is because just like the Red Bulls, the number 2 team, they hadn't lost. Okay. Columbus Crew 2 came in and said, gee, that's a nice little goose egg you got on the loss column. Be very bad if something happened to it. And something happened to it indeed. Okay. Columbus Crew walked in there in the campus. Adams in the 6th minute. Adu Gayafi in the 40th minute. And that's all she wrote. Okay, they also got a red card on the way go. But the reason why Mark Coates is right now slamming his fist on his table is because defensively something was wrong. You know, this was one of those games, Mark, where what happened to this defense that in that game? It was one time to break down. It was that.
It sort of disappeared. I mean, there were a couple plays where our keeper was out of position, like questionably playing up too far. Yeah, it was sort of like, all right, you're trying to be Coronel, but you're not Coronel. So there was that issue. The other issue is it seems like the offense is trying to find its way with Roel Mitchell gone for the season.
Yeah.
Because, neither one of it just, I mean, I watched Julian Hall have an open net from 20-something yards out and puts the ball over the crossbar. Just rushed the shot. He had time. He just rushed the shot. They're pressing. They're pushing so hard. I mean, you threw up the stat there. 11 corners. 11 corners. And we couldn't get a goal. It was just, it was tough. Yeah, and this is at home. Yes, it's Columbus Crew too. The thing that I'm concerned with MLS Next Pro, I'm seeing like Steven Sawada's getting time down there. He's just not getting quality time to prepare him to come up for the first team. I don't think any of these guys really are. I don't think that there's really that level of competition. I liked when Red Bull 2 played against USL. I mean, yes, it was boys versus men, but you found out who these guys were.
They had some good moments other than mostly bad. I'm telling you. I mean, they gotten flattened by grown men. Okay, but I mean, nothing gets you up to speed faster than playing against grown men. I mean, and that's why I didn't like the idea of moving away from from USL. I kind of missed that. Okay,
right. But like I said, it was
but USL didn't want MLS's teams, two teams in there.
No, so and part of the problem was attendance too, because if you ever looked at from like back when we first joined in 2016, if you looked at the attendance records for a lot of the two sides, they were always in the bottom half of USL.
Yeah. USL,
they're doing well. Even listen, we were joking around. I mean, I was sitting with a couple guys yesterday, and we were waiting. It's like, listen, it's a 5:00 start for the spring and the fall games. And again, I don't know who makes up these timetables, but who wants to be there at 5:00 on a Sunday? It's just, it's tough.
Why Sunday, period? I mean,
I don't know why we can't go back to Friday night games. My kids loved coming out for Friday night games. Dollar hot dog night. It was.
I don't understand. There was more people on Friday night games than Sunday. Sunday, you home.
We can't even get 500.
And if you ain't the New York Yankees, you ain't showing. No, you ain't showing up. It's that simple.
I mean, I know that they give us the tickets for free as season ticket holders, so they're not making any money on Next Pro. All right, it's lost. But we would get 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 people coming out on a Friday night. But you can't even get 500 on a gorgeous Sunday afternoon. I mean, listen, I was sportsed out. We talked about it. I had two Premier games, Yankee and the Knicks at the same time.
Premier League, you got the North London Derby going off. I mean, people were sitting in there. You got the Knicks.
Game.
Yeah, you had the Knicks and you had the Rangers. People were in the sport. If you were at home, people were in the sports bars. I mean, Sunday was just that day.
Nobody was at MSU. I mean, there were more people probably for the concert, that they had for the for the college than there were watching the game. It was just, but then again, there wasn't a lot to watch. So, and again, refereeing, came into play. There were a few
questionable calls.
It was kind of, but it is what it is. You move on. It's now they'll play Miami Sunday. We'll see what happens.
That's correct. Now, like as we mentioned before, the entire squad, both the senior team and the junior team, are now down they're going to travel down to Fort Lauderdale to take on Inter Miami, just as Inter Miami traveled up, okay, to New Jersey to take on the New York Red Bulls. Speaking of another New Jersey-based team, New York Gotham FC played their game against, Racing Louisville, and 2 late goals. It was a late show. Miss Turner, 5 minutes into stoppage time, put the team in the lead, but then Rose Lavelle, 2 minutes later, saved the day and got her tally, and the game ended 1-1. So they didn't lose, they didn't win, which is probably the good, thing. Send a lot of folks happy. Hopefully they can stand on their 2 feet, because we were really worried about them, wondering if they brought all these brand name players and they figured they were going to house everybody. No, they're still somewhere out of playoff position right now. I mean, so it's a kind of a head scratching situation, Carlos, where you bring. I mean, but once Midge Purge went out for the year, was she the glue that held this team together?
I think so. I think we were talking to Anthony last week, and again, I think it's just the overall injury bug, right? This coach hasn't had the opportunity to really have a consistent 11 out there to ultimately execute what I think he would like. And so, again, hopefully, it ended up in a draw. Lavelle comes on, scores the goal, which is great. And so, again, I just think you kind of stay the course as best as possible. And just, kind of remember that last season, Gotham made it to the promised land, not being, one of the top seeds in the playoffs. They got in and they made their run.
Right.
And so,
and went on a run for the ages. I mean,
yeah.
So I'm my girlfriend was wondering, hey, is the honeymoon over? I don't know. I mean, it came out of nowhere, made a badass
I don't think so.
run.
I think it's still too early.
Right.
Listen, I mean, they've played 5 games. They have 1 win. All right, they're 11th in the table, but they're only 2 points behind 8th place.
Bingo.
So, I mean, am I worried? I'm concerned that they're not.
That's the word I want to use. Yeah. Concerned. Okay.
And I agree that not having Midge on the field, I think is giving them a handicap to begin with, and then like Carlos mentioned, additional injuries, not having a consistent 11 to run out every week, but they're 5 games into the season. It's their panic button should still be in the drawer. All right, just like ours should still be in the drawer. I mean, Nick posted up, we had 2 wins in 10 games as of from last season. 2 wins in 10. We have 1 loss in 10 games this season.
Like I said, not that shabby.
Yeah, but the other thing is too that other teams have made improvements. Some, like we were discussing, you see Nashville at the bottom of the table, and the other teams that have dropped.
Those teams, right? But those teams that made improvements, Mark, there's a lot of new guys that coaches have to deal with. A lot of people seem to forget that there's a lot of new moving parts and try to set that up where it can actually make sense first before they can go on a run. For the Red Bulls, they're just missing, which is frustrating a lot of fans, as we know we have a good team. Of course, naturally we lost Stroud, okay, and he was definitely a diamond in the rough in the midfield, and he was definitely doing his thing. He was giving the midfield some bite until it bit back, and that was the end of his season.
Well,
but we still have a solid.
Yeah. John mentioned that not having Frankie and as a start because he got a knock in practice. That's you lose Stroud and then not having Frankie available to start the game. Definitely,
those two were a dynamic duo. I mean, those two on the same pitch, they were causing problems for a lot of midfielders. Okay, midfields and teams that they played with. Cleaning stuff. Inter Miami versus 2. Versus New York Red Bulls 2. The kickoff is at 6 p.m. Of course, all the games on MLS Next Pro is on Apple TV. The New Jersey Gotham FC will be home against North Carolina Courage at Red Bull Arena. Kickoff is at 7:30, a night game on Sunday. And, of course, the game is on MSG Network. For some reason, I'm having a problem finding Gotham FC on TV or even streaming. So I was trying to find them on MSG, not there. I was trying to find them on the NWSL channel on Paramount Plus, not there. I see last year's games. I don't see this year's games, which is kind of strange for me. That's something that I probably will complain much later. Okay, boys. Bold prediction time. Inter Miami FC, CF, versus the New York Red Bulls. What are we looking at here? I mean, there's a lot of doom and gloom, and if there, I'm not going to paint that picture with a broad brush. So, Carlos, you go first. What are you seeing as the final score?
I'm going
You're in
to
second
say,
place, by the way.
because of the lack of defense that we know Miami has, I think we will have a coming out party. But I cannot underestimate the GOAT. I think it is going to be a 3-3 draw.
He's going to get his. Just bear that in mind. He's going to get his, okay? Okay, so Suarez, he's going to get his. Bear that in mind. Mark, your bold prediction.
I'm going to go with what I thought about earlier, which is a 3-2 win for us. Because I'd like to see. I think Messi gets 2, but the red, that's it. I think we hold them in check, and I think somehow, some way, at least one of our milk cartons disappears. I really like to see Van Zier get 1, and have him show up for 90 minutes. But that's where I'm going. I'm going 3-2 win.
I'm also going to go through a 3-2 win based on Miami's defense. I'm not impressed by their D. I'm not. And everyone's telling me, there was really ball stuff as New England. New England is old and slow and feeble. Okay, they got one, and despite that, they got 1. I mean, if a team is supposed to be all world, all boss, you don't give up goals. They got 1. But then when you got Messi scoring for every goal they give up, they score 2. I mean, that's how the game looked. And when I, saw the replay, that's the only thing I love about Apple TV. You can able to watch replay, at will, from beginning to end. And I was watching that game at lunchtime. It was such a beautiful day. And then I walked in, and then it started raining after that on the way home. So it's a 3-2 win for me. I mean, I'm getting to think that right now Schwartz is getting tired of these 1-1 draws where they were supposed to be wins. He says it in the press back, and he says it during the the press that, hey, it's it's good to get a win, get good draws against good teams, but not like what I saw on Saturday. He was not happy where you had the game literally at the throat and you didn't punch the guy out. You didn't do the knockout blow, which is something that frustrates not only fans but coaches too. So, what's your take, everyone? What do you think about the final score and everything else? Because you guys all play along enough. And next week, of course, this is where Miguel returns, and of course, Lonray. I don't know. Maybe he get over his cold and maybe get over the serving. When the Knicks win, I'm sure he'll feel much better. But
I told him not to go to Philly.
So did I. I mean, I told him, dude, don't go to Philly. I said, don't do it. Hey, man, dude, don't go to Philly. Nope. You're going to be disappointed.
Not for game 3.
Don't do it. Game 3 is always, I said, Philly's going to get theirs. You're going to be right there. You're going to be very upset. You're going to get too mad. You're going to try to punch out a Philly fan. You'll be spending the rest of the weekend in jail. Don't do it. But I'm glad he came home. Only thing that came home was a bug and everything else. So... who knows? So
it'll be fun to listen to Miggy once the Premier League starts to wind down. And
well, I'm a little worried about Miggy because you know how that is. Sometimes if they lose, he comes in with with depression and everything else. But we'll see what happens from there. Of course,
he'll be all right.
Yeah, he'll be fine, of course. And so, as they say, when you hear that wacky little music, you know that it means at the end of our show. We want to thank every last one of you guys for showing up and hanging out with us for the last hour. We'll see you guys next week. Of course, we're going to talk about, of course, our next game, which we'll play after Inter Miami. They go down to they come back home versus New England, and you're probably going to see just how old and slow they are. As always, okay, we do have a YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen. If you please like and subscribe to that channel, you can be alerted on the next new broadcast, which happens every Monday until the first international break. And of course, we have Spotify.com and of course Goals.tv. We're doing our best to upload new episodes over there, but you can catch us everywhere. Of course, we couldn't do this without you guys. That's the reason why it's your show, and we appreciate your support. So that's it for now. Until next week. Thanks very much for joining us. To everybody in the live audience, we appreciate you coming by. We hope to see you guys next week. And thank you very much for being here. For Carlos Cano, for Mark Coates, I'm Gary Redmond. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Until then, good night, goodbye, for now.